South Africa and Nigeria. Two African giants, forever linked by history. While South Africa battled the brutal system of apartheid, Nigeria stood as a beacon of hope and resistance. This isn't just about shared values, it's about concrete actions, about putting everything on the line for freedom. Nigeria didn't just condemn apartheid from afar. They opened their homes, their wallets, and their hearts to South Africans in need. They provided refuge for those fleeing persecution, offering them a place to call home when the world seemed to turn its back. They trained and supported freedom fighters, understanding that the struggle against injustice knows no borders. They used their voice on the global stage, rallying international pressure against the apartheid regime. This wasn't just government policy, it was a people's movement. Nigerians from all walks of life, students, artists, everyday citizens, joined the fight. They boycotted South African products, organized protests, and raised funds for the anti-apartheid movement. This unwavering support came at a cost. Nigeria faced economic pressure and political isolation for their stance. But they never wavered because they knew that freedom is a price worth paying. Nelson Mandela, a name synonymous with courage, resilience, and the fight for equality. But few know the crucial role Nigeria played in securing his freedom. Please subscribe to my channel, like and share the video. When Mandela was imprisoned, Nigeria's leaders refused to stay silent. They saw his imprisonment for what it was, an attack on justice and human dignity. They rallied international support, using their influence to keep Mandela's case alive in the global consciousness. They lobbied foreign governments, urging them to impose sanctions on the apartheid regime. Nigeria's then head of state, General Olusegun Obasanjo, was a vocal advocate for Mandela's release. He used Nigeria's position in the Organization of African Unity, now the African Union, to galvanize support for the anti-apartheid movement. And it wasn't just talk. Nigeria put their money where their mouth was, contributing millions of dollars to the anti-apartheid struggle. They provided financial support to Mandela's family while he was imprisoned, ensuring their well-being during those difficult years. These actions weren't just symbolic, they were a lifeline for Mandela and the movement he represented. After 27 long years, Mandela walked free. But the fight was far from over. Decades of apartheid had ravaged South Africa, leaving its people scarred and its institutions in ruins. One of the biggest challenges was rebuilding the education system, which had been deliberately designed to disadvantage Black South Africans. Mandela knew that education was the key to empowering his people and healing his nation. And he knew just who to turn to for help: Nigeria. Mandela appealed to Nigerian educators to lend their expertise and experience. And they answered the call. Thousands of Nigerian teachers, lecturers, and professors packed their bags and headed south. They left behind their families and their familiar lives to help rebuild a nation. These educators didn't just fill empty classrooms. They brought with them a passion for learning and a commitment to equality. They shared their knowledge, their skills, and their unwavering belief in the power of education to transform lives. My uncle was one of those educators. I remember him telling me stories about his time in South Africa. He spoke of the hope that filled the air, the sense that a new era had dawned. He described the hunger for knowledge he saw in the eyes of his students, their eagerness to learn and to build a better future. But he also saw the lingering effects of apartheid. He witnessed the deep-seated racism that still permeated society, the economic disparities that continued to divide along racial lines. He saw how the legacy of apartheid cast a long shadow, even as the country celebrated its newfound freedom. His experience was a microcosm of the challenges facing South Africa. The country had taken a giant leap forward, but the journey towards equality and justice was far from over. Section 5. The Shadow of Xenophobia. A betrayal of shared values. It's heartbreaking to see the xenophobia that has gripped parts of South African society in recent years. The violence, the hatred, the scapegoating of immigrants. It's a betrayal of everything Mandela and countless others fought for. To see Nigerians, who stood by South Africa in their darkest hour, now targeted in this way is a bitter irony. It's a painful reminder that the struggle for equality is an ongoing one, and that the demons of prejudice and intolerance can resurface even in the most unexpected of places. This isn't just a South African problem, it's a global one. But it's particularly painful to witness in a nation that knows firsthand the devastating consequences of discrimination. Section 6. Unmasking the real enemy. Inequality, not immigration. It's easy to blame foreigners for complex societal problems. It's a tactic as old as time itself, to find a scapegoat, to deflect attention from the real issues. But the truth is, Nigerians are not the cause of South Africa's problems. The real enemy is inequality. It's the legacy of apartheid that continues to cast a long shadow, the economic disparities, the lack of opportunities, the systemic injustices that still plague the nation. Instead of turning on each other, South Africans need to unite against these common enemies. They need to demand better from their leaders, to hold them accountable for creating a society that works for all its citizens. Section 7. A call for unity, honoring the past, building a shared future. This isn't about denying the challenges South Africa faces. It's about confronting them head-on, with honesty, courage, and a commitment to solutions. It's about remembering the shared history between South Africa and Nigeria, the bonds forged in the fires of the anti-apartheid struggle. It's about honoring the sacrifices made by those who came before, on both sides of the border, by building a future where such sacrifices are no longer necessary. It's time for South Africans to reject the politics of division and fear. It's time to embrace the spirit of Ubuntu, the African philosophy of interconnectedness, compassion, and shared humanity. Section 8. A shared destiny. Embracing African solidarity. The destinies of South Africa and Nigeria are intertwined. What happens in one country reverberates in the other. When one rises, the other rises with it. When one stumbles, the other feels the pain. It's time to move beyond the rhetoric of blame and division. It's time to embrace a future built on shared values, mutual respect, and a recognition of our common humanity. Nigerians are not the enemy. They are brothers and sisters, partners in the ongoing struggle for a more just and equitable world. Let's stand together, not as South Africans and Nigerians, but as Africans, united in our pursuit of a brighter future.